Shaun, thank you so much for taking the time today. Really, really grateful for you being on with us. Excited to chat, learn a little bit more about your background, what got you into becoming a creator, and I guess what excites you about continuing to do so. So firstly, I know time is tight on the home front as much as everything else with work, so really grateful for the time.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Give a little bit of insight to, I guess you can say, like my journey of just being your typical investor and getting in the crypto and then becoming a content creator, different things like that. Yep.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. So maybe let's bring it right back to the very beginning. Kind
Yeah.
of tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, what life was like, what you were like as a kid, as an adolescent, teenager. Give us as much of that kind of background as you possibly can.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in Louisiana, Southern Louisiana, Tyler Hill, big guy that helped me out when I first got into it. Actually, doesn't live too far from me. Yeah, so I grew up in Louisiana. I mean, from a super young age, I've always had like an entrepreneurial spirit, I guess you can say. Started growing up, cutting grass, doing any kind of business venture that I can possibly think of from basically the time that I can, get out on my own. Then I started driving, and then I just kind of started increasing my business ventures and things like that. That was always my focus. So like when my
Yeah,
friends were out partying, I was thinking up like business ideas, especially in college. I was writing business plans and different things like that. So once I kind of got into the college area, for those in the southern part of the United States, or pretty much the whole United States, there's a big chain called Smoothie King. I knew a lot of people that owned them, so it was my dream to own one. So actually, right out of college, 22 years old, I talked my stepdad into co-signing for me to actually start that franchise. So I went ahead, I started that franchise. That was back before that big crash, like 2005, 2006, when you can get 100% finance loan. So kind of lucked
yeah.
out from there. So when I kind of went along, I built that over the course of like 12 years. One
Wow.
side of that, I got into real estate, a whole bunch of different business ventures and things like that. I sold it. The way the territories were marked, I guess you can say, there was only so many stores allowed to be able to be opened in one market. So I actually had
Yeah,
this big money guy in the area come in and offer to buy it from me. He was paying like 5 times the market value for it because he just wanted in the market. So I went
yeah.
ahead, sold it, took those funds, I actually put it into real estate, which is what we do now, flip houses, different things like that. So it's just kind of been like my whole life. I just kind of, again, been entrepreneurial. And the way crypto kind of got involved
Yeah.
was when I make money, when I have income come in, a certain portion goes to retirement, but I also leave a certain portion for, I guess you can say, like fun money, like your like make money quick type things. And that kind of started with like years ago with like penny stocks and different things like that. And I actually started watching YouTubers. I'm not sure, like Tyler Hill might have been one of them, but some different people, they were talking about like penny stocks and different things like that. So that's kind of how I got into looking at different plays like that. And then those same YouTubers actually led me to, everyone knows it, Safe Moon. So once that kind of led me into that, that kind of got me into this whole like crypto space. And that's kind of where like the whole journey started coming into this crypto space. I started off, like everyone else, getting into projects. I was typically one that would buy a lot and kind of just want to help out and, do what I can. And then I unwittingly kind of started creating a following with people that would follow my content and do different things like that. And that's kind of how I pivoted to becoming like an actual content creator was actually taking that and then just started making YouTube videos and different things like that, which led me to what I have today, which we can kind of go into that. But what we're doing is just a whole bunch of different multimedia things within the company that I created.
Amazing, amazing, Shaun. Absolutely phenomenal.
Uh,
I'm so intrigued to go back to, like, it was brave of you to come out of college and go straight into
yeah.
a franchise. I actually think in a way it's like nearly more courageous at 22 to go into a franchise when probably the natural kind of sense is to, try to paddle your own canoe. But I actually think franchises are amazing, an amazing ecosystem.
Mhm.
And I guess also to learn discipline, system, structure. I'd love to ask you a little bit more about that. How did you find it? Did you enjoy it? Did you learn a lot from it during those 12 years?
That's an understatement. So the first year, so I bought an existing one because I lucked out. The guy that was in the territory actually worked for the corporate office, and the corporate office was getting away from people working for corporate, but also owning franchises. So I kind of
Yeah,
lucked out by getting into this Louisiana market where the whole thing was started.
yeah,
First year was tons of learning. I made a lot of money, but then I lost a lot of money. I didn't understand the seasonality of it and different things like that. So yeah, getting into it, like you said, you're kind of having to create your own money. You're not, getting that steady paycheck every 2 weeks. So yeah, it's a huge learning curve from paying taxes to bookkeeping to ordering. You're not ordering too much to where you're just having tons and tons of money sitting on your shelf, but then you need to order enough so you're not running out of stuff. So yeah, over those 12 years, I mean, it made me as close to an expert at running a small business as you can possibly get. But yeah, wouldn't change it for the world. I've started at 22 and I'm 40 now, and I've been self-employed literally those whole 18 years. As a full-blown adult out of college, I've never actually worked for anyone else. I've always kind of worked for myself. So
amazing. That's fantastic. I think the franchise kind of model is a really interesting model and super exciting as well, or valuable for someone coming straight out of college, because I guess like the concept of being kind of founder mode and just kind of following a dream is exciting, but also comes without like regulation systems and kind of structure. And I think like going into the franchise side of things gave you obviously those hard skills. So I guess fast forward then during those kind of 12 years, you come out the far side, you exit the business, which is an amazing achievement in your early 30s. And then you start kind of looking at investing in those kind of 12 years. Had you dabbled around in stocks and shares, or was it only after you exited and you had a little bit of headspace that, trading kind of came to mind?
No. So I've always of course, I went into, different retirement accounts, IRAs and all those different things like that. And I've kind of always dabbled with like day trading, which if you think you're going to make a living in day trading, not probably going to happen. There's a very small percent of people that can actually day trade. So yeah, that's when, again, I kind of looked at penny stocks, and that too is just plays. But again, I was using funds, which smart thing to do in my opinion, funds that I was willing to lose. It was a certain portion above retirement, above making sure, the family was fed and all that stuff, to playing around with. And yeah, I started off. So that whole kind of time I was playing around in stocks. I started some side businesses as well. Real estate has been my other successful one, but there's been other multiple failed ones. Like any good entrepreneur, I think I've tried about 7 businesses, and 3 of them actually succeeded, which actually went on to do pretty well. And 4 of them failed. So it kind of just part of the game of getting involved in it. So
we're building up that skill set. Yeah, phenomenal stuff. And then I guess fast tracking towards when you started to come across Tyler, as you said, a phenomenal entrepreneur and broadcaster, YouTuber, as we very well know. Talk us to that point, or bring us to that point when you said, you know what, I'm gonna put some content out there. I'm sure there was probably a little bit of hesitancy, a little bit of double thinking. Give us that headspace that you had at that given time.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm not a natural on camera, never have been. So let me start by saying that you don't have to be a natural born, I guess you can say, person in front of the camera to actually do this. But like I said, I kind of got into crypto. I unwittingly created a following. And of course, my entrepreneurial brain was like, oh man, I see other people doing this. Why don't I kind of get into it? So I did have a business partner. We actually started a call channel, like a Telegram call channel, hence the Crypton Calls investing. And that's kind of where it started. I was like, if I really want to grow the brand, because I created other projects, I was doing the whole development thing or developer thing. And with that, that's where I met Tyler Hill, Crypto Zoo, so many different YouTubers that, promoted some of my stuff that I put out, kind of became close to. They gave me a lot of advice. So I was like, what, if I really want to amplify and amp up this whole like crypto and call things, I need to make a YouTube channel. I talked to everyone that does the whole YouTube thing. So that's kind of how that became around. That was probably like 3 years ago. I started putting out just content, making, talking about the crypto market, doing crypto market updates. I made a deal with myself that I would post 2 to 3 videos per day for 90 days. So what I did was, I had a newborn at the time. I woke up before he woke up. I stayed up after he went to bed. Because at that time I was still full blown working in my real estate and my flips. So during the day, my partner, who was one of my general contractors, we had to do that throughout the day. So I was just spending the time doing that and just having that consistency to just keep it going. I was making token reviews, unsponsored, unpaid, just finding projects that I really liked, started talking about them. And like I said, I just did that for like 90 days, 120 days without fail. And then even after that, I was making sure to make at least like 1 video a year. And of course, you'll eventually start to gain traction and different things like that, which again, that's what it takes. It definitely takes consistency in order to be able to do that. So that's kind of how I evolved from just penny stocks to crypto to a call channel to a YouTube channel. And now we have even cooler things that we're doing. Like I said, we're building a whole multimedia company on top of my actual like YouTube channel where I do token reviews. I have a podcast, all kinds of different things like that. So
amazing, amazing. It's phenomenal to see the evolution of the different strands of everything that you are doing now, from those early origins, rough and ready as they were, whilst you had the newborn. You were kind of squeezing in 2 to 3 videos a day. During that period, did you have a kind of a structure to the 2 to 3? Were you thinking, one will be news and updates, one will be a token review, or how did you kind of break those days up?
Yeah, so it was structured. I kind of like to start off the day with a market review, going over the pricing of everything, Bitcoin, all your blue chip cryptos. I usually had another video where I would actually talk about the breaking news of the day. And then I would do another video about a token review or something like that. So that was kind of the 3 go-tos that I did, was talking blue chips, talking news, and then actually doing like token reviews for stuff that I found that I liked and, thought would bring value to them and to my channel as well.
Fantastic, fantastic. Really good example for somebody who's out there, who's thinking about making content, regardless of the niches. Really give yourself that framework, even if it's not perfect, just giving yourself that shape and something to focus on each day to kind of hit or tick the slot, shall we say, just to get through that 120 days or 120 day sprint that you so well recommended. Within that kind of time period, at what point did you think, you know what, I'm starting to get some traction here? Did it take a good chunk of that period before you started gaining some connection?
Yeah, so I would say about 6 months in is when I actually got my first paid review. Someone messaged me, wanted to do it. So it was about 6 months. And of course, it's super excited because someone actually wanted, to partner with me to actually produce some paid content and stuff like that. And then kind of once I kind of produced that, it kind of started all just kind of falling in place. I hooked up with Tyler and his company, who was a huge help in helping me out, getting like, deal flows and different things like that. So yeah, it took about 6 months of just nonstop. And I'd probably say within like the influencer industry, because I also own another small channel on TikTok where I do like movie reviews and talk about different things like that. It's consistency. Like a lot of people think, oh, it must be nice to, make money, whether it's talking movies, talking politics, talking crypto, whatever it may be. And the main thing, in my opinion, that makes someone successful in the industry and makes someone not successful is the sticking power. You have to actually just stick with it. When you get on there and you see 10 views, you can't get discouraged. You got to just keep pushing through. And the people that keep pushing through and have decent content usually will come out on the top. So that's, I guess you can say, the number one thing is just consistency regardless. Don't even pay attention to your views for like the first 30, 60 days. Just keep plugging along. And again, more than likely it will eventually fall in place.
So. Amazing, amazing. Such simple, but such strong advice for somebody is keep that consistency, get the cadence, and just stick with it over time. During that kind of 6 months or so, and let's say coming beyond the 6 months, where you've built the habit, you're starting to get the flow with your tone of voice, and things are becoming a little bit smoother for you. At what point then did you start to kind of tweak and refine your videos, or what would be examples of minor kind of bits of advice you might give someone who's thinking about getting through that 6 month period? Is it, focusing in on thumbnails? Is it focusing on your delivery, your sentence structure? Like, what really do you think makes the difference when you start to get through that bulk period?
Yeah, so I mean, thumbnails, obviously a huge part. Now with AI, thumbnails are getting easier and easier. Probably say like 3 years ago when I first got into it, it wasn't as easy. Or if it was even available at the time. So thumbnails, obviously descriptions, your hooks. What do you say when you first start the video, especially if you're on like a YouTube short or TikTok? You got to hook people in within those first couple seconds to really get them going. And another thing too is, I know it's hard to watch yourself on camera. A lot of people do have trouble looking at themselves on camera and watching back, but go back and watch yourself. Take notes on what you think you can do better. I mean, 3 years into it, or a little bit more, I mean, it's night and day. I wouldn't even want to go watch the first video. It's on my YouTube channel, but I wouldn't even want to go watch it. I would probably, again, be embarrassed for myself to actually watch it. So that's another thing, is just watch yourself and take notes. See, act like it's not you. If you were watching this content and it wasn't yours, what would you want to see, I guess you can say, that would keep you more engaged and entertained, actually want to stick around for the content? So again, just critique yourself, which a lot of people have trouble doing. And also when other people critique you, take that critique and actually implement it, because they're critiquing you for a reason. They could be making fun of you. They could, you have a whole bunch of people and trolls that are in comments and things like that. But yeah, look into it. And instead of getting mad about it, just take it as critique and just try to make yourself better as you continue to move forward.
Yeah, that's exactly such amazing, simple advice, but continuing to move forward whilst making those refinements and taking on board the feedback, even if it is from less desirable sources, take it and see, does it have some form of validity, and make the changes. But I think that's a really good tip as well, is to watch yourself back, because oftentimes we cringe when we see ourselves, and often, even hearing our own voice, it kind of makes us recoil with awkwardness. But I mean, it's such a good inspiration, Shaun, the fact that earlier in the chat, you said that at that stage when you started, you were not a natural communicator. You weren't, a natural on camera. And here you are 3-4 years later, and, the business is absolutely booming. You're so smooth and polished. It's such inspiration for anybody. So I guess then by the time a year came around, you felt reasonably established. Can you recall after around 12 months where you were in terms of subscriber count and what your headspace was like at the time?
Yeah, I mean, in 12 months, I was probably at about 30,000 subscribers. And yeah, it was kind of when I was probably starting to find my flow with different things. And yeah, I just continued pushing forward, because again, you guys just continue to move forward. Another thing that I utilize is you can run ads on YouTube. So just like any other business, I invested a lot of my own money into my brand to help me gain subscribers and help my channel get attention. Because outside of that, it is difficult to grow your channel, I'm not going to lie. So that was something I utilized. I know maybe not everyone might not have the means to be able to do that, but yeah, I did utilize some different avenues like that to advertise my channel and different things to really help me amp it up and grow into, the channel it became today.
Yeah, amazing advice, because oftentimes we come across a lot of, guys and girls who might have come through a career and they're decently established, as you were before you started the channel, and they kind of want to shorten that learning period. They kind of don't want to go through super long, extended, anything they can do, even if it's by a couple of percentage points, to grow the channel faster and really just, I guess, accelerate things a lot further, than is to look at paid traffic. So I think that's phenomenal advice. You mentioned briefly as you were passing through that you were also doing a little bit of content over on TikTok. I guess I'm interested between, let's say, that little bit of content and then the broader experience that you had, right back to the franchise business and everything they had in between, the real estate business, which obviously, there's crazy depth of learning that you had through all of those 7 operations that you built. Did you feel like all of that experience kind of came together with the development of the YouTube channel? Like, was there benefit to all of it as you started to put yourself out there?
Yeah, I mean, if you break it down, it's not dissimilar from any other business. Like I said, I did pay a lot to market it and different things, just like you would, just like I did my Smoothie King. When we flip a house and we market it, it has to go in MLS. You have to market it. I mean, it's all about marketing and just growing the brand. So that was the number one thing I concentrated on. But yeah, everything that I've done before this actually helped me out to actually start building this, and just have the know-how, and also more importantly, the patience. Again, a lot of people like to start things and not even talk about views, just talk about a regular business. Someone will start an Etsy shop selling shirts or something like that, and they go 30 days and have one sale and they just bounce. It's all about consistency. Not many businesses are overnight successes. Now, to the public, you might seem like a overnight success, but in reality, you've been hustling for years and years and years, and it just finally started to actually really take off. So yeah, just goes back to that consistency, and you just got to keep driving forward, regardless of the views or regardless of the potential sales, depending on, what kind of business or industry that you're in.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a really interesting point you raise there around brand and marketing. And it's actually, I have to commend you for it, Shaun, because it's not something that I've heard from anybody else that we've interviewed on the podcast, is thinking about yourself as a brand and marketing yourself. There's often the concept that, well, it has to be organic and I have to, take it super slow, but really you are a brand, and giving yourself that feel and shape to everything you're doing, I think is super interesting, and taking that experience that you had from the previous businesses where you knew there won't be sales in the business if you don't put yourself out there. The real estate units are not going to flip themselves. People have to, have to know about them. You got to get eyeballs on them. So I think that's incredible advice for anyone who's kicking off. And I think, also there's the note that it doesn't have to be huge investment. Any kind of investment is small, can just nudge you forward, because as you've reiterated, it's consistency and the kind of compounding effect. So I guess, fast tracking now, 3-4 years later, tell us a little bit more about maybe your aspirations and your ambitions with the multimedia company. It's fascinating and exciting to hear where you're going with it.
Yeah, so we have another brand, because at the same time, I'm a developer. I love creating different projects. We actually built our own blockchain. We built our own token launcher. It's called Fund, kind of a competitor to Pump.fun. But another cool thing we did within that is we built like a really cool live streaming. Of course, I'm a YouTuber. It goes back to the live streaming. There's chats within that platform. You can tip back and forth and different things like that. But I'm saying that to say this. So what we did was I have a couple partners where they produce a lot of high quality content. So we actually created a game show. It's called Lunar Dust. Think about it like Deal or No Deal. We're like 6 episodes in. Instead of cases, we have wallets. Instead of bankers, we have whales. And we actually invite different projects, and they have a top prize to win up to $1,000 to come on every week. And yeah, they come on and they're my guest, they're contestant. They have 26 cases. They pick each case, and there's $0, there's $1,000. It's just like Deal or No Deal. So that's kind of like our newest business venture with our multimedia company. We've had like tens of thousands of views, hundreds of thousands of impressions in the first 3 episodes. We 4, 5, and 6, or episode 4, 5, and 6, we're waiting a week, and then we're going to gather that content. So the crypto space, I don't think has anything like this, because we're always kind of looking for what can we do different. On top of that, the contestants get to talk about their project within the episode. They'll pick 6 cases, and then I'll bring them up back on stage and we'll let them talk about their project. So you can think about it also as like a fun AMA type thing, because again, so many people do AMAs, but they're getting to the point, for me at least, kind of get boring. They're kind of stale. It's probably been like a year since I've watched a full-blown AMA that I was actually interested in. So that was kind of the concept of the game. So yeah, we're building out like a full-fledged game show, and not building out, it's already built. And on top of that, we want to bring in some other fun game shows and different things like that to actually build this kind of like game show type brand within the crypto market. And again, I think it's one of what we're doing. So yeah, highly recommend checking that out. So that's kind of like where we're kind of pivoted. Of course, I create my normal content on my YouTube channel that I've always done. But yeah, this is just something on top of that, just, throwing into the whole Crypton Calls Media company that I've built. So it's kind of like the next iteration of something cool that we're doing.
Amazing, amazing. It's such an inspiration to see kind of, what you've developed only 3, 4 years into putting content out there, the relationships that you have, the businesses that you've built. It really is such a good example of how sticking with things over time can really blossom and flourish into so many branches that presumably you probably couldn't have predicted this kind of, business several years ago. So it's phenomenal in that sense. If someone was, a fan of yours, Shaun, and watching this and, eager to go online, regardless of kind of what the niche is, do you still feel like there's opportunity in the market? There's space out there in all niches? Do you feel like, there's a chance to grow for someone who's starting to make content today?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, I think if your content, again, we're in a society that craves content. People get on TikTok, people get on YouTube, they scroll and they engage with content for hours and hours. So there's definitely room for content creators. I don't think it's by any means too late to kind of get into the game of content creation. And again, just create decent quality content and be consistent. And more than likely, you will eventually start to grow a following.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. And I think also there's the real inspiration for someone who might be coming from a pre-existing career to see yourself, regardless of what niche they're in, to see that, you can be a content creator, but you can also be a multifaceted entrepreneur. Because what I love about what you're telling us, Shaun, and what you're doing is you're really building yourself and the business into a media company. You're building a mini media empire there that will continue to blossom and flourish as the years go by. So I guess looking forward to the future, the rest of the decade, you probably have a decent kind of roadmap of where you want to go. Are you still super excited about crypto? Do you feel like your content might go beyond that at a certain point, or where do you see things going over the next kind of 5 years?
I honestly think I'm going to stay in crypto. I'm hoping crypto continues on the trajectory that it's on. Mainstream adoption, I think, is just getting closer and closer. Not even sure if our typical cycles are even going to exist anymore with different regulations and different things that are coming. But yeah, it just kind of start off with me and Crypton Calls as just a YouTuber making content. But now again, I want to build it into something else. And that's kind of where we started with the whole like game show thing, just to kind of add something new to the crypto space. Again, something that no one's ever seen before. It's kind of still, even 6 episodes in, still in its beta form, I would say. But I mean, it's awesome. Like I said, if you love Deal or No Deal, you will absolutely love this. Communities come in while the developers are playing. It's super exciting. The chat is just boom, boom, boom. Everyone's talking. We do trivia questions throughout the game for audience to go ahead and win like $10 tips and different things like that for the first person to get the trivia question right. And so that's kind of the direction that I kind of pivoted Crypton Calls, was to start growing the brand, even, outside of just my one individual self. Even if people don't even realize Crypton Calls is behind Lunar Dust, and the different game shows that we want to produce. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards, just growing the whole overall brand instead of just me being just one individual, on YouTube.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that is a great kind of insight for someone who oftentimes, I guess what we're sometimes touching on in, these interviews, like with yourself, is trying to kill off the reasons why, the barriers why someone wouldn't put themselves out there online. And one thing that we sometimes hear is someone thinking ahead into 5 years, saying, you know what, well, if I start making content around crypto or whatever it may be, that, you know what, in 5 years time, I'm going to be bored of it. Why would I even start? But as you're clearly proving, that there's never an end to the creativity that you can have in terms of as you scale up and create new ideas. And I think what you guys are doing with the game show format is phenomenal. And obviously it has so much multi-platform opportunity with it, given that, YouTube is spawning out, or rather, let's say viewers of YouTube are spawning out into Rumble, Kick, Twitch, multiple different jurisdictions where you guys are going to be at the forefront of that. So I think the exciting thing for someone who's thinking about making content is, don't worry about where you're going to be in 4 or 5 years time. Just keep showing up every day, and kind of the windows of opportunity will open. So that's amazing advice. What would your guidance be for someone? I know it might be a very rudimentary question, but for someone who is really on the brink of wanting to put content out there, but they're kind of hyper alert, worried, embarrassed, maybe even about what people will think of them because they're not perceiving themselves as being like a communicator or a broadcaster. What would your kind of simple guidance be to someone in that position?
Yeah, I mean, just do it. Kind of going back to what you were saying, I've been self-employed for 18 years, and the saying really is true. If you love what you do, you never feel like you work a day in your life. I honestly spent the last 18 years, instead of waking up like a lot of people do on Monday morning and dreading it, I wake up loving going to work, building something. And then typically as the success starts to build, you'll get even more excited for it. Kind of like this, as stuff continues to grow and as we get bigger and bigger, it just gets more and more exciting. So I don't think I'll ever kind of lose that edge that I have and want to continue on. So yeah, my biggest piece of advice is just do it. Some people are terrified of getting ridiculed. What about the mean comments? Well, let them say mean things in the comments, because guess what that means? Those mean comments create engagement. Engagement creates further push. Again, a lot of those people making those comments, they're jealous that they don't have the nerve to actually do it, or different things like that. So if you're nervous about getting on camera, or you just don't know what to do, just again, throw yourself out there and see what happens. That's the best I can say. And let the chips fall where they may. Yep.
Simple and so effective, and such a great line. The chips fall where how they may. I think looking back on your whole journey, Shaun, it's such inspiration for anybody. I mean, straight out the back of college, you're straight into a very challenging position with a franchise. You work through that for 12 years, do really well with it. You exiting business in your 30s, going into real estate, continuing to do that, flipping units relentlessly, and then figuring that, you know what, I want to put myself out there online, even though you didn't feel like a natural communicator. It's such inspiration for anybody. And then, as you said, the core tenets that we're hearing from your advice are consistency, showing up every day, that cadence, and I guess also having that kind of sprint period at the start where you really, I guess you got through probably 100, 120 videos within, 40 days, shall we say. You probably, after that 40, 50-day period, you were already decently refined. So repetitions are kind of what we're hearing. And then just not worrying too far in the future. Like, look, here we are several years in, and you're building a multimedia company with fascinating aspects to it. And goodness only knows where you're going to be by 2030. I bet my hat on it that it's going to be absolutely phenomenal, given your track record and everything that we've seen over the last few years. So yeah, super advice, Shaun. I think you're a real true inspiration for anybody who's thinking about going online, regardless of whether it's in the crypto space, maybe working with someone like ourselves at Fluence with our accelerator program, or if you just want to become a thought leader in your own industry. I think that also shows that you don't have to come from a background of growing up in crypto, because I think sometimes people look at crypto creators thinking, well, if I'm not haven't grown into it at 19, 20 years old, then I can't put myself out there. But as you've proven, you started in your, I guess, mid 30s, late 30s, and here you are, 40 years old, phenomenal, absolutely flying it, still looking 27, 26, as we said, but there you go. That's the good genetics. But yeah, fantastic. Anyway, Shaun, we're super grateful for your time today, and I'm really excited to have another chat in maybe 12 months time, see where things are.
Yeah.
And yeah, some really good lessons that you shared with everybody.
Yeah, yeah, appreciate you guys having me. Like I said, just stay consistent. I mean, honestly, it probably took me like 6 months to a year to get to the point where I got on camera with zero nerves. 3 years ago, having this conversation, I've kind of been wound tight, and then now it's just, it just kind of becomes a part of your natural flow. You don't get nervous talking in front of anything or anyone anymore. So yeah, just stay consistent, guys. If you want to create something, and just keep pushing forward. Don't pay attention to views, and just keep chugging along, and more than likely it'll work out.
Yeah, amazing. Super advice, Shaun. Thank you so much. And we look forward to chatting to you really soon.
All right, guys. Again, thanks for having me.